Welcome again to the R4D series, Research for Development. This series is an inspiration from the research and development. As you all know, I am an advocate for research and inquiry, so I thought to share with you here some research reports that I read from time to time, and these research reports most of the time are long, so some educators find it difficult to read and go through those long reports. So thinking about sharing them with you here can be a very simple step and a very nice contribution. So if you are interested as educators, as leaders, as teachers, and even if you're interested to share this with the parents who are interested, please feel free to do so. Now, I chose R4D to relate, like I said, to our research and development that we all know. And I have always noticed that research and development is still absent from many schools and many educational communities worldwide. However, it's important here to mention the following 5 points before I start. And these 5 points are as a disclaimer. First, that I will be sharing here these key global research findings that can benefit educators. These are not my researches. Point number 2 is that the target is to drive inquiry in our school systems. Point number 3, and considering here the first 2 points, definitely there are certain limitations taken into consideration, such as the countries involved, education systems involved, organizations, institutions, the ways, methodologies used in the research, and of course, the research in general with all its conditions, respectively, the time of publications, etc. So in other words here, these findings will most likely be related to this context of those parties. Now, that definitely there are also the time constraints here. And also point number 4 is ethics. And this is fundamental when taking into consideration any type of research, such as objectivity, correct information, respect to parties and the conditions, etc. Point number 5, and it's dictated by point number 4, which is the citation. And the citation is extremely important. And like I said, I will include it in the description below. So please feel free to check the citation and read the entire report if you are interested in it for more information. So starting first with the overview, the publisher is the Economist Impact, UK, commissioned for Qatar Foundation. The title of the publication is Getting Personal, the Future of Education Post-COVID-19, and it was issued in 2021. The number of pages is 53. Time of publication, like mentioned, 2021. The research tool used 2 surveys and an interview program, and those were conducted between May and November 2021. The involved group were 300 principals and vice principals and 150 senior executives in EdTech industry. The theme is technology-assisted learning, the learning within the classroom and beyond that serves education, not defines it. And the target is to improve understanding of technology as a supporter for each student within the context of pedagogy and technology, and mainly the challenges as well. So there are potential questions that we might take away from this research. And the target of this presentation is how can such findings inspire us, inspire particularly our schools. So starting first with personalized learning. Personalized learning is not a new idea. It traces back to 1984, and it first appeared in the research paper by the educational psychologist Benjamin Bloom. The paper was titled The 2 Sigma Problem, the Search for Methods of Group Instruction as Effective as One-to-One Tutoring. And Benjamin Bloom talks about group instruction and that the methods used in group instruction can be used and can be as effective as one-to-one tutoring. And he noticed that students receiving personalized instructions can sometimes outperform their peers. So in a way, the personalized learning as described by Bloom is similar in concept to one-to-one learning. There are challenges for personalized learning, and we all know that. And the main one actually can be inspired by the paper itself, by Bloom's paper, The 2 Sigma Problem. And there is a quotation in that paper, quote, teachers are frequently unaware of the fact that they are providing more favorable conditions of learning for some students than they are for other students. Generally, they are under the impression that all students in their classes are given equality of opportunity for learning, end quote. And this still occurs in schools nowadays. And that's why we really have to understand the concept of personalized learning. This happens within our context when we can say that our environments are not yet ready, are not yet fully ready for personalized learning. And the challenges have been accelerated by COVID, actually. In the pandemic, there has been this urge to implement personalized learning strategies in schools, in classrooms. And this would have helped more create those meaningful interactions and meaningful environments for learning. And it also decreased actually the size of the learning groups, and that was very helpful. That was one of the conditions of social distancing during COVID. Now, students are more accurately here grouped by ability, and there are certain individual skills that are taken into consideration rather than just putting them all in large groups and working in crowded classrooms and working on the same topic. This research was conducted by the Economist Impact, researchers, writers, graphic designers, editors, and like mentioned, it was commissioned for Qatar Foundation that requested this report for more understanding of the critical situations that educators have faced during and post-school closures. And the president of Qatar Foundation states, and I quote, "We hope that its findings will make a real contribution to the urgent global conversation we need to have on how to create spaces where each child's talent is nurtured." The target was to know about attitudes towards personalized learning. And the target group were educators and edtech experts in the UK and the US. And the study actually drew on two surveys. The first surveyed 300 educators, principals and vice principals, at the primary and secondary stages, and also 150 EdTech senior executives. These are the senior executives, professionals from EdTech firms. And there was also, in conjunction with these two surveys, there was an in-depth interview, 12 carefully selected experts from the industry. The tool was, like mentioned, surveys and interviews. And those surveys and interviews targeted defining roles, the responsibilities, of course, within the scope of the work, specifying organization size, structure, features, and protocols. These are the number of people involved, the shareholders and the stakeholders, a global coverage as well, so it was local and global. And also the surveys and interviews requested views, opinions, and observations of all those people involved, including policymakers, and that's what makes the study important. This is a sample of one of the questions from one of the surveys, and the survey's questions are found in the report, pages 25 to 51. And actually, they cover a good number of pages for you if you want to check the questions. This is question 13, and I will read it because I find it quite interesting. What do you think are the most important decision-making criteria for schools when evaluating a new education technology to potentially adopt? Select up to 3. And if we read the list, clear impact on student learning outcomes, ease of use for teachers, cost, ease of use for students, teacher training options, suitable for a wide range of student backgrounds, transparency around collection and use of student data. Other schools are already using it, scalability, brand reputation, proof of responsible design, that is, technology is accountable and inclusive, others specify or even not sure. So actually they are very comprehensive, and they do consider not only the cognitive level, but also the social and emotional level, and this is very important as well. So the general notes about this research, the surveys were 10 minutes plus or minus. They were conducted through the computer-assisted telephone interviewing, the CATI online methodology. Each survey constituted of 15 questions, and the number was considerably ample, actually. No less than 150 respondents in each survey, whether they were educators or EdTech experts. And these surveys were supplemented with 12 one-on-one expert interviews. And with interviews, they are usually open-ended. That's why they give more thorough findings. So starting with the with the results, and I will be sharing 6 types of results, starting first with planning, the 5-year plan here. And the question was, in the next 5 years, how likely are the following scenarios? Personalized learning is a priority for my school. Teachers have resources for personalized learning. Teachers have digital skills for personalized learning tech. Personalized learning helps teachers adapt to the needs of marginalized learners, and the human element is necessary for personalized learning. I'm reading these very quickly because they will give an idea of what was considered in the survey, and I find these very fundamental points to consider. And if we, for example, look at this type of 5-year plan as envisioned by those educators, they all believe that their school's budget for personalized learning will increase in the coming 5 years, and this is definitely very welcoming. The teachers at their schools also are generally very supportive of the introduction of those personalized learning tools and methodologies and techniques into the classrooms. In one of the points, the human element is necessary for personalized learning, I find this very interesting because according to the results, we have the 75% and the 50%. So 62% believe that they strongly agree that the human element is necessary for personalized learning. And this makes it very important because we have all been talking about 21st century skills, mainly problem solving, creativity, communication, collaboration, self-direction, and so on. And all these are human types of skills that are endorsed for the 21st century. So combining these skills within the personalized learning methodologies is definitely very important. The second thing regarding the benefiting group and who benefits, which group of students most benefit from personalized learning. And if we look at the findings, high achieving students, 79%, they find that they are much more beneficial or somewhat more beneficial for high achieving students. 79%, which is a considerable result. It's almost equal, because also the equally beneficial shows here to be 22%, which is a good result. And the students under 12, and this is interesting as well because it's equally or more beneficial for students aged under 12 years than it is for older students. And whereas in another part of the survey about the same point, they mentioned that 89% of the secondary school teachers say that it's equally or more beneficial for their cohort than for younger learners. So here we can see the observations of those primary and elementary levels. Best practices. Which of the following teaching practices does your school employ to incorporate personalized learning into the classroom? And here, this is very interesting as well. Tailored learning plans, 73% believe that the shift towards personalized learning at their institution includes the use of learning plans that are more tailored to the students' needs. And this is very important. And this is one of the most important objectives of having personalized learning in the classes. While 64% in another part of the report, they believe that the development of the lessons based on the interests of the students, which means it holds the students' attention. And this is something also important to consider while preparing and while targeting good learning outcomes. There is also the EdTech to support students, which showed also considerable number. Lessons are developed based on the student interest. Instruction is paced to individual students. Only 26% of those surveyed say that in their schools, instruction is paced according to the individual needs. And only 14% say that students decide how and what, when, and where they learn. So here we can see that there is a type of difference between the responses from the primary and the secondary school educators. And it shows that probably more mature students do not benefit much from this great type of individualization. Results regarding innovation. Which of the following EdTech does your school currently employ? And this is a very important question because it highlights a main discussion among educators and among educational communities regarding the tools that are used and what represents technology. There is a misunderstanding of what technology is and what is being used in the classes. And the elements included are the learning management systems. And this is very clear here that 92% of the respondents said that they've introduced the learning management systems. And it was almost like over half of the respondents reported that. So such systems are considered to be very supportive of the learning process. But there are other factors that we have to consider. For example, a much lower percentage was shown using exploratory learning environments. 46% invested in exploratory learning environments, and much lower rates, like 32% in the game-based, 24% in the dialogue-based tutoring, etc. So this is very important here because this highlights the fact that EdTech is more than just technology. What provides more pathways for better student results? So this wasn't clearly explained in the survey, and it was also stated in the report itself, because the effect here of any EdTech investment depends on what is being bought and its application, how it's being applied in the class, and how well the teachers and the students are trained to use it, and how those outcomes will be measured. And with decision making, what are the most important decision-making criteria when your school is evaluating a new educational technology to adopt? And here, I find this very important because we have seen that, especially during COVID and the surge of COVID, schools had to provide those tools for the teachers during remote learning. So there was no quite a study before those tools were purchased. And it noted here in the report that the cost is the biggest issue when it comes to choosing technology. Like 58% mentioned that the cost is always the most important factor considered. Suitability for all learners, ease of use, impact on learning, use of student data did not matter much, just 27%. Scalability, availability of teacher training, brand reputation, responsible design. I find these last points important and interesting, common in other countries as well when it comes to scalability and the teacher training. So these are taken at the expense of the cost and the suitability for all students, although they are important as well. With risks, what are the biggest risks with personalized learning? And here it really shows that the biggest risks are the impact on student social development and student over-reliance on technology, with 62%, and then followed by the 46%. And I think these are the risks faced not only in education, but also in many different fields. And these were recorded to have a higher percentage than the breach of student privacy and the misuse of student data. It was just 30% to 18% respectively, and even the inability to measure effectiveness, which was 20+%. So the major themes of this research came under the term key findings, and they were 9. The first theme was COVID-19 accelerated adoption of personalized learning, and this was definitely evident through the variety of the student-led and the internet-based remote learning methodologies and approaches, and those are key elements in personalized learning. Theme number 2, there is near universal enthusiasm for the idea of personalized learning, but no clarity over what this means in practice. And this is very important because the report here stated the full agreement on personalized learning by educators and EdTech professionals and experts, but there was no clear definition. And the survey clearly states that such a result may, and I will quote here, reflect a general openness to new approaches rather than a consensus on what exactly those approaches should be, end quote. And this remains a major theme till this year, and I think for 2 to 3 years or even 5 years to come. So this is a subject worth study in the coming years. Theme number 3, educators agree that personalized learning is well suited for imparting 21st century skills. And this is very important. And in the report, they showed that problem-solving skills and critical thinking, creativity, confidence, communication skills, all were stated with very good percentages. 70% for problem-solving skills, 69% for critical thinking, 53% for creativity, 51% for confidence, and 50% for communication skills, which were very good percentages. But the survey also clearly states, and I quote again here, existing systems of measurement and evaluation do not always reflect the advantages of personalized learning, end quote. Theme number 4, personalized learning spectrum stretches from teacher-led approaches to more radical student-led methods. And this explains here how the traditional teacher-led approach, which shows the teacher as this creator of the lesson who crafts this lesson to meet the students' needs. But the learner-led is having more student agency. And within this spectrum, as the teacher moves from the teacher-led to the student-led, the teacher becomes the facilitator or the mentor who can help the students find their own pathways. And this is the core of student-led approaches and personalized learning. Theme number 5, educators tend to favor teacher-led approach. Now, 73% of the institutions noted that throughout the personalized learning changes, they used lesson plans tailored to the students' needs, while only 26% of those institutions said that instruction was paced according to the students' needs, and only 14% mentioned that the learners have a say, or they express their opinion in what, when, and where they learn. So it's obvious that the approach is still more into the teacher-led. Theme number 6, technology being used primarily supports the teacher-led personalized learning. And this is, as this was explained before, when we mentioned the learning management systems, the LMS, 92% of the institutions adopted LMS, but the LMS include those e-learning tools that make that facilitate the teacher-student interaction. So it makes it easier for the teacher to do what she is already doing. Whereas the tools needed for personalized learning and that can support the learner-led are those other tools such as exploratory learning environments, game-based learning tools, virtual agents, dialogue-based tutoring, etc. Theme number 7, although technology is a key tool for delivery, it is not enough on its own. And this is very important, and to note that regardless of what we think of our achievements, of how far we reached in this technological context, we still have a long way to go. And 98% of surveyed educators warned actually in the report, technology is more valuable when it provides teachers with insights about the students and about their achievements and the interaction between these two. And here I quote, technology adoption does not change culture or teaching approach. Instead, the culture changes the type of technology adopted, end quote. And this is one of the debates that is still persistent in the educational communities. Theme number 8, greater cooperation between edtech firms and schools is needed to develop more effective products. And this is so important because over 90% of educators and senior executives from those edtech firms all agree about the importance of cooperation between these two domains. But 82% of edtech executives believe, and here I quote, the lack of access to research and development in schools is a barrier to innovation for my industry, end quote. And that's why here I'm including research for development series, because this is an element that is urgently needed in education so that we can further move through research-based action steps and plans. Theme number 9, students and parents are less convinced than teachers of the benefits of personalized learning. And this was mirrored actually most in the experts interviews. Personalized learning poses this need for a change from what students are used to do, and the way parents also monitor and accept the new this new environment, which is totally opposite than what they have encountered in schools before. So there is this value that is not yet clear, neither to learners nor to parents. And the best way to do that, actually, according to the expert interviews, is to experience personalized learning, to be within that learning context. These are some of the quotations. Education has been good at doing the wrong things really well. We invest in technology that doesn't work. Technology is just a thing. What really drives something being brilliant or not usable is the teachers and the students' ability to use it as an amplifier for learning. The key technological opportunity is to help orchestrate learning and may be much more important than its direct role in providing instruction. Make sure that educators can analyze student data so that they know where every child is starting and then select the best blended learning model to personalize for the individual. The big promise, encouraging educators to think about learners as creators, giving them an opportunity to create something new. Allowing students to express what and how they have learned in a format that allows for freedom of expression, such as making a movie or creating a multimedia project. This kind of flexibility and the ability of the teacher to respond with precise, rich feedback on next steps in an efficient way is only available through technology. Where traditional testing is much preferred, it will likely be little used. In personalized education, the change in culture and mindset shapes decisions on edtech, not the other way around. Technology developers have to sell a product into a market that is saying, I want tools to do what I'm doing better, faster, and easier. Administrators are more likely to spend on technology that helps schools do what they are doing rather than make potentially large upfront investments typical of a major change in practice. This dynamic suggests, perhaps ironically, that the kind of technology being adopted and the way decisions about it are made do more to entrench the status quo than disrupt it. And I personally find these quotations very reflective and worth considering in our schools. And this is the end of the research findings, getting personal, the future of education post-COVID-19. So how can such findings inspire us? Focus of inquiries in our schools. Now, the report in its executive summary states that new technological tools are highly welcomed by educators and many new tools are employed in schools, but there remain to be fundamental factors to make these tools achieve their full potential. And they sum it up in 3 action steps. Develop new forms of performance metrics. And here they mean that educators can acknowledge what approach they are using and they can improve accordingly. The second action step is to enhance collaboration between classrooms and edtech firms. Now, while this is not our responsibility as schools, but edtechs should hire more educators. And even the edtech experts noted that for so many years in the past, edtech companies did not have educators working for them. But what we can do as schools is at least we can collaborate when we are asked through a survey, through some kind of positive feedback, or even initiate collaboration with tech companies to suit our needs. And the third action step is to secure what they call buy-in from students and parents. And this means parents and students actively participating in those tech-based activities. So here, there are some questions that we can actually think of. Which of the 3 has or have more impact on personalized learning in our schools? Do our teachers understand the concept of personalized learning and the elements of personalized learning that may improve outcomes? And here it's worth mentioning that some educators understand personalization to be differentiation, and these two are actually different. Differentiation is linked more to the teacher-led approach, when the teacher has to diversify the methodologies and the techniques in the class to suit the students' needs, whereas personalization is more related to the student-led or the learner-led approach. The third question that we can think of, are we providing the right PD for teachers to facilitate their classes in the most effective way? Are leaders and here we mean principals, vice principals, head of departments, head of sections, are they receiving professional development as needed, mainly with the data analysis? And are they embracing these steps towards true redefining of education? And of course, I leave more questions to you to think of, which you have noticed, whether you are an educator in school or a person working in the edtech industry. So the driving conclusion question: how can we ensure that the technology we employ in our schools best serves personalized learning? And just like in every presentation, I end it with this: a research may not solve all concerns, but it can drive reflection and action. To solve issues at grassroots level, transparency must come first, reflection must come second. That's when conscious actions can confidently step in. So let's stay in orbit, let's develop and grow. Thank you for listening.